everybody. Happy New Week. Hope you're doing amazing. I have got another hot off the press from the press author, Josephine Palermo, here right next to me. I'm very excited to be interviewing her today. So good morning, Josie.
Good morning. How are you? Hi, everybody.
I'm doing amazing. As you guys can already see behind her, she's got her amazing book there, which we're going to talk about this morning for the next half an hour. And if you do have questions or anything like that, post them below. If you're watching this on a replay, or send them through. I'm sure we'll be happy to answer stuff. But let me give you guys the official introduction of who Josephine is. And that way we can get stuck into the amazing content. Very interesting stuff that I'm also very curious to find out. So Dr. Josephine Palermo is a lifetime advocate for women and gender equality. She holds a PhD in organizational psychology and is a published expert in coaching, leadership development, psychology of gender, and organizational dynamics. Renowned as a sought-after speaker, leadership coach, and mentor, Josephine's expertise lies in fostering communal leadership based on her profound understanding of gender and organizational dynamics. With a diverse background spanning academia, senior corporate leadership, organizational consulting, entrepreneurship, and community leadership, Josephine leverages the psychological and gender knowledge to develop practical strategies for bridging the gender gap in leadership. Currently, she fulfills her entrepreneurial aspirations as the director of multiple businesses, including Geared for Growth Consulting, 16 Conditions Australia, and Melbourne Belly Dance, which is very, very interesting when I was reading your bio. Josephine inspires individuals, guys, to redefine the significance of work in their lives, encouraging them to bring their authentic selves to the workplace. And in 2020, she launched the Gears Action Growth podcast. So check that out. Engaging in conversations with esteemed guests on topics concerning business and culture and teams. So Josephine, so much. Did all of this go into the book?
Well, no, well, a little bit of it, but an aspect of it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, lots of, as you can see, I really love variety in my life. So,
Yes.
lots of
Yeah,
things happening all the time.
I love it. I love it. So today we're talking about introducing feminine power, and that what we know about power is wrong. Tell me, like, where did this topic come from? Because that's also your tagline of the book, right?
Yes, yeah, it is. You know what? What I want to say is your concept of power is probably incorrect or at least incomplete. And I've been studying gender and psychology for decades. It was my topic in my PhD, which I completed in 2005. And I've had these really a growing passion to get this information out there. I've published in the academic world, but that's not accessible to everyone. So I really
Right.
wanted to write a book that was very accessible, really something that would be engaging and people would want to read and be able to read and really get some insights themselves from the stories that other women share about their experiences with power. Because I think we learn more when we hear stories from other people, and particularly other women. So
Yes.
that's why the book came to fruition. I've been wanting to write a book, a non-academic book on this topic for a long time.
Yeah, we were just chatting before we connected. I go, when did we meet? And we said it was probably about 18 months ago, and you
Mm.
went through our publishing route. And now the book's out into the world. So we want to spread, shout it from the rooftops to let people know that there's such compilation of wisdom that you've accumulated over so many years, and you've studied it in such depth. So let's talk a little bit about, some of these topics, let's talk about biases that are, driving our behavior and,
Yeah.
in organizations. So talk to me about that.
Yeah, one of the ways to really tackle the issue we have around gender inequality, and we can, and in the book I talk about gender inequality. There's some statistics there. I don't necessarily have to go through them, but we know that women are very capable. They're incredible leaders, and yet they still aren't represented on Australian, senior leadership teams. There's only 18% of women on Australian boards. It's the people running our country, basically. And we still have a gender pay gap of 20%. That's unequal pay for the same work. What's going on there? And really, the reason that's happening is because we have bias in our organisations, and that comes from us as people developing processes, developing systems, reinforcing systems through our own bias. So I sort of start off with saying we're all biased, and we are. If you look at the neuropsychology, we're all biased. So the trick is not to deny that we're biased. We have lots of traditional gender stereotypes that still operate. Nat, if I said to you, picture a professor, picture a CEO, picture someone cooking over a hot stove, picture someone picking up children from school. Your gender stereotypes, your biases play out in what comes to mind. We all do it. So the trick is not to say, no, that it doesn't impact us. The trick is to say, how do we manage and address that? So in the book, I talk about the fact that women need to support each other because they are operating in an environment that has a design fault, that values masculinity and undervalues femininity. But when we look at all of the research on the future capabilities we need, both in our workforce and for leaders, it's all of those characteristics that women possess and that are part of constructive psychological femininity. We need compassion, nurturing, caring. We need collaboration. We need adaptability. That's all the stuff that women possess, because women in the main tend to really carry on those feminine traits, and also non-conforming men do too. But they're just these barriers to getting into the workplace and into leadership. And you can think about community leaders as well, because of those biases. So the book is about how women experience power. I ask a question: when did you first become aware of the influence of power in your life, or the forces playing in your life? And a lot of women talk about early childhood experiences, or their first experience of work. So we get into personal lives as well as work, because you can't just we bring our whole selves to work, so you can't just talk about yourself at work without what's going on in life as well.
I was just thinking about the question that you just posed, and I was like playing the question in my mind, what would I answer? Because I've never thought, being a woman, I couldn't do anything. But you know why? Let's rewind the clock back to my childhood. I was literally raised by 4 very strong women, because my mum and dad separated when I was like 2. And then there was my grandma and the 3 daughters. And I always saw them do everything, right? And
Yes.
and then it's like in my life, I've never thought that men were stronger or prioritized. I thought I was just like, can do everything and support myself. So
And you can.
yeah,
And you can.
Obviously I was blessed to see that.
Yes.
There's obviously pros and cons there. Not having a male figure,
Yes.
it's different. How my husband and I have kind of reverse roles in our family, but that works for us. So yeah.
Exactly. And so absolutely. And obviously at the individual level there are differences, but when we look at in general, women are suffering from lots of imposter syndrome, for example, and that's because the environment tells us that those unique strengths that we have, those unique feminine qualities, aren't valued, or not as valued. You're too emotional, you're too colorful, you think about people too much, you can't make those hard decisions, all of that. It's actually incorrect thinking. It's just based on those gender stereotypes. And a lot of men don't want to lead that way either. They don't want to work and live in a world like that either, but they're constrained too. They're constrained and locked into gender stereotypes as well. So it's about disrupting that and really challenging that. But to do that, we need support. So, other women are really important for us to really connect with, so that we support each other without judgment too. So that's really important.
I love that. Yeah, that's what I was about to say. How do we, because we all get raised with certain beliefs, and obviously it's been skewed the other way too much. And we've gone through many years through, the feminine coming to the forefront, but we've still got a while to go, right?
Exactly, absolutely. And first it's about recognizing it in yourself. So really understanding what are those things that have led you to a certain place, and maybe it's not really about your true self, maybe it's those forces interacting, so challenging that. And in organizations, in government, even in nations, we have to challenge the way we do things and think about things. And for example, during the COVID pandemic, the female-led countries actually did better than the male-led countries.
Yeah,
That's not a coincidence. They locked down earlier, they had less deaths due to COVID because they really activated compassion and nurturance and caring and connection. Connection was really an important characteristic that hasn't gone away. We still need to feel connected to what we do at work and in our daily lives. And if you're a stay-at-home mum too, if you're working, that needs to be valued. We need to get real about that.
yeah,
The lowest paying jobs are childcare. We need to think about why that is. There's all, and of course, when I think about that, there's a lot of, injustice and unfairness, and that comes from bias. So what we need to, from an individual level, do is think, what can I control? What's in my I'm concerned about a law, but what can I control? And I can control my behavior and think about how I'm being influenced. But to do that, you need the support of other people. It's very hard to do it on your own because we operate about 80% of the time in our day through unconscious processes.
that's
So
true.
only 10 to 20% of our day, we're actually thinking with the frontal cortex. We're
Yes,
thinking, those higher order thoughts that kind of make us stop and think, hang on a minute, is that right? I've always done it that way, or my mother always did it that way, or my boss always did it that way, but do I need to do it that way? Maybe not.
yeah.
That's the higher order thinking. We're not always going to make every minute of the day count through higher order thinking. We would be taxed completely. Our cognitive system would
No.
overload. Yeah. You wouldn't want to live that kind of day. Yeah.
Do you,
So yeah.
sorry, you say we've got to get the help of other people. How do we do that? Do you have some ideas and suggestions that you share
Yes,
in the book?
yeah. So in the book, there's a lot of stories about how women are connecting with other women in both in the workplace and in their personal lives. Right at the last end of the last chapter of the book, I kind of cheekily called it let's fix gender inequality today. And I don't mean that we'll fix it today, but those stories are about how women connect with women's circles. They can do it on their own, or they can work with, professionals like me and create gatherings and women's circles, which is facilitated. And that, just to give you an idea, I just led a retreat in Bali 2 weeks ago. We brought a group of women together, really diverse age ranges from 19 to 63. And we talked about these issues and we really supported each other. And by the end of, I think we were there for 4 nights. By the end of those 4 nights, everyone had had an amazing time. But they suddenly had someone else in the world who gets them, who understands that they're trying to change in this way. And that's important. It's really important to connect in with other women and get that support. And because it's not necessarily just going to happen. We're not going to make changes like this
Yeah.
just by willing it, because those forces are really strong, and we're teaching our children the same things, because that bias comes through. It comes through everything we do. It comes through media. It comes through just our daily actions and what we say. So it's about being kind to ourselves. We're all in the same boat. So
Yes.
don't be unkind to yourself. Be compassionate to yourself. Say,
Yeah.
yeah, we're all in the same boat, but I just need a little bit of help. And there are some strategies there. I also talk in the book about how how we need to understand imposter syndrome, because that's a really common
Talk to
problem.
me about that. Obviously, people have that syndrome all the time, and I actually attract probably 95% women into my community. So tell me a little bit about it.
Well, you're great, Nancy. You provide a forum where the people get support, and because we do have that self-talk, that self-talk is, I give it a name, it's limited self-beliefs. Let's call it what it is. So we want to do something, and then suddenly this little voice in our head say, You're not going to make that happen. You can't do that. Who do you think you are? They're not going to read anything you want to say. Why would you put your words out? It's all of that. And what we need to recognize firstly is that self-talk. Be compassionate. Say, yes, that's part of me, but I don't need to necessarily behave in that direction. I don't need to go that way. That's not necessarily true. So there are ways to challenge that thinking ourselves. Again, it's really important to talk to someone about that. And some people get coached around that. They join groups like this where you've got that group coaching experience.
Yeah.
And it's important to be real about that limited self-belief and tell once you get it from in here out, it
Mm.
already dilutes it. So for example, even doing my first retreat, I had a lot of imposter syndrome. I actually suffer from imposter syndrome
Everyone.
a lot of the time because of my early childhood experiences. So I managed that. And I had a little thought saying, nobody's going to come to Bali with you. Why would they follow you? All of that. And then I actually work with a business coach one-on-one, and I said to him, I'm having these thoughts. There's a belief there. It's in my business plan. I've planned for it. I've planned the time, but I still don't believe it. If I don't believe it, it's not going to happen. So
Mm.
we reframed that using some techniques.
Yep.
And then within 3 days, I had booked the retreat. Within 5 days, I had people signing up. It's that quick. It
Yeah.
is really that quick. And I'm not talking about woo-woo manifestation here. I'm
Yeah.
talking about just getting control of my own thoughts,
Yeah.
getting control of that belief with help. It's very difficult to do it on your own,
Oh,
unfortunately.
it is. It is. Yeah, step away from fear and into faith and then action as well.
That's right.
It's key. And you're right. I think the communities and what you've started to do with your retreats and what we do with the authors, everyone like-minded, supporting one another,
That's exactly right.
different people from different directions and type, it's very encouraging. That's why I say don't do stuff on your own. That is
Exactly.
quite a massive shift, because your
Yeah.
little, what is it, your little subconscious is going to manifest some resistance,
That's right. That's right.
along
You
the
have to
way.
expect
And
that.
yeah, exactly. So talk to me a little bit more about other actions about feminine power. What is that all about? We hear this kind of language all the time.
Yeah.
And you say rising to feminine power. So what
Yes.
does that mean for women? Well, and there's obviously different types of women out there. Some have more masculine in them. We all have
Yeah.
masculine and feminine, right?
That's right.
Tell me
That's
your
right.
definition for our listeners of how you see it.
Yeah. So in fact, actually, men and women both have,
Yeah.
feminine and masculine energy. So we both have those
Yeah.
psychological drivers. And for women, rising to feminine power is actually about being unapologetic about those strengths.
Yeah.
So that women by early childhood experiences, they learn to see the world through connection. So they learn to consider others and to see the relationships around them. Feminine power is about viewing power as a function of those relationships. In other words, power isn't something that's in me, it's out there. It's in the relationships that I build. So
Yeah.
it's firstly about seeing power differently. We often attribute characteristics to leaders and people we see in powerful positions. We say, oh, she's so confident and she's so charismatic. That's a function of being in that powerful position. That leader was maybe not necessarily always confident or always charismatic. When you step into a leadership role in your family, in your personal life, in work, in the work that you do, that builds confidence, and then as you're doing the role, you get more competency. In other words, you learn to be more confident, you learn to be more charismatic, you learn to talk to people, you learn to get your voice out there. All those things are learned, they're competencies. The more you learn that and the more competency you get, the more confidence you get, and then you're going up to the next level. So if you start by thinking, I don't need that power in me, it's not
Yeah.
in here, it's out there, It's the work I do for others. That's powerful. It's the way I consider others. Very powerful. It's how I know how to collaborate with others. That's very powerful as well. So
Yeah.
you think of power in that way. Then the second part is let's be unapologetic about our unique strengths. That is nurturance, care, connection, collaboration. And let's ignore or even dilute dominance and competition. And I'm not saying that competition isn't also a motivator. It can be. It can be really good in certain situations.
Yeah.
But if that's not you, if that's not who you really are, you do not have to step into that, because
Yeah.
those feminine traits are enough. They are more than enough. You are more than enough. So
Yeah.
it's actually, and in the at the retreat in particular, we talk about feminine archetypes. There are four that we talk about, and this is through my really good friend Petra Plankova, and she talks about the feminine archetypes of girl, mother,
Mhm.
lover, and queen. And though we can at any time channel those energies at any stage of life. And the rising to feminine power is about channeling the queen. It's
Mhm.
about really doing it differently, doing it in the way that we believe leadership should be done in the world. And being unapologetic about that. So because people will say to you, you can't do it that way, or you need to be tougher here, or you consider people too much. And when I look, this is all evidence based. I look at the research and I think, and I know these are the things we need to do. So don't tell me I can't. It's just that you don't know how. So again, this is just gender bias
Yeah.
playing out when we talk to people, again, who are just have a view of power in a different way. They believe that you get things done through dominance, control, and competition. And we've survived. The planet even has survived in that way. But look at where we are. It hasn't, it's not going to get us to where we need to go in the future. We need different, particularly in a digital world where there's lots of information and we're
Yeah.
all interconnected digitally. There's
Yeah.
no way we can control all of that. There's no way you can apply competition to that. It,
No.
it actually it actually really demotivates you if you try. But
Yeah.
if you think of all of those amazing bits of information we have in that digital space and you think, I'm a super connector, I know how to connect, that's a very different way of thinking about
Yeah.
power. So it may be that, for example, and sometimes someone listening on the call might be thinking, I want to step into a leadership position. I want to lead my community. I want to do it for myself. I want to be that queen. But I don't want to. I don't want to have to trample on people. And I'm saying you don't need to do that. Be the queen. Bring other people with you.
Mm.
Who's around you that you can bring with you? Even
Yeah.
if it's one person, two people, do it in a collective sense, because that's how women thrive, and that's how we've always thrived in the past. We've
Yeah.
always done it that way.
Yeah, I agree. Like nurturing connection and all of those things, you can definitely do it through the digital space, just in a different way. Yeah,
Exactly.
I love how you've made the differences. So let's move on to talk about how was the process of publishing your book? Like, how long did it take you to fully write the manuscript? Because
Yeah.
you came to us once the manuscript was then ready, and then we moved into
Yes.
editing, layout, and all those stages. And maybe tell us how was your experience and all
Yeah.
that sort of stuff.
Yeah. So I went down the publishing route because I have written before, and I love writing collectively as well.
Yeah,
But with this book, I knew it was something that I could do on my own, and however, in the end, it changed. So I thought I was going to write a book that was just really something from me.
yeah,
And I started to do research and started to interview women. And as I interviewed women, I heard some amazing stories and such words of wisdom that I thought, oh, I've got to include that in the book.
yeah,
So it made the book writing process a little bit longer because I wanted to interview all the women. And I also gave the women an opportunity to review transcripts. You don't always have to do that, but I wanted to honor their words and make sure that they were happy for me to publish certain things. And some of the stories in my book have pseudonyms
yeah,
because of that, because they were happy for the story to be published, but unfortunately they're not feeling confident to have that story out there.
yeah,
So some of the stories are very vulnerable. They're really about things maybe you haven't heard of. for example, and some of them are very brave. I've got one of my contributors, Dina, who really bravely talks about motherhood in a way that some people are going to go, oh my gosh, because she talks about how maybe if she had known everything, she wouldn't have done it. And she's got two beautiful children. That's such a vulnerable thing for her to share, but
Yeah.
she's such a powerful woman that she's, able to share that. So the book process took a little bit longer, took about 12 months. And I don't think it needed to take that long, but I was busy doing other things in the meantime. And, my businesses would take me in different directions. And importantly, I have to carve out time. So I kept carving out certain weekends. But
Yeah.
even being on the publisher track, it was good because you through your business, Nat, you kept kind of coming
Yeah.
back to me saying, how's it going? Have you finished? So that accountability was
Yeah.
really helpful. So even though I didn't, go and do the full
True.
retreat with you. And then after the manuscript, the first manuscript was done, it went to the editor, and then I got the first edit back. The editor that you chose for me was fabulous. I worked with Carmela. She was amazing, and she's and really very compassionate as well in the way that she gave me feedback. I didn't feel ripped, ripped to the core through the feedback. It was actually a really positive process. And
Yeah.
we went through about three iterations of going back and forward. And she was great because she would suggest some things and then I would suggest some things. Most of what she suggested in that first edit was spot on, by the way. So, it was really helpful because
It was a
she
collaboration, right?
was a collaboration.
Yes.
Exactly. And we got to a much better outcome. And then I worked with beautiful Julie on the logistics, and I'm still working with beautiful Julie on the logistics
Yeah.
because there's a lot of moving
Yeah.
parts,
There's so many
questions
tiny
like,
things. Yeah.
yeah, how do I get this thing out there? What's online publishing? How do I get it printed? What about the book cover? Who's going to do that for me? And
Yeah.
and so your team were great with even the artwork. And you'll see that I've got Wonder Woman on the cover. I actually collaborated with an artist in Melbourne. That's an original
Let me show you guys
artwork.
closer. I'm going to show the cover a bit closer on the screen. There
I
it
can
is.
hold up the book. Oh, there you go. That's an
There you go.
original artwork by Melissa Labozetta. She's got a gallery in Paran. She does amazing artwork. And so I'm collaborating with her on this project. And again, that was something that I wasn't intending to do. It was just through conversations. And she really wanted to know about the project. She wanted to believe in the project because it's a true collaboration. And
Yeah.
and so now I have this beautiful collaborator on the book. Because that's such a beautiful image, that Wonder Woman, it's that queen energy. And so
Yeah.
I wanted to use that.
And I love the photo on the back is you're doing the same kind of style of stand.
That's right.
Yeah. I love it. So where can people get your book?
So you can go to www.risingtofemininepower.com.
So here
So
it
it's
is,
the
guys.
American.
Those of you watching this on a visual, you'll be able
Yeah.
to see the website. Those of you listening on a podcast, it's Rising Feminine Power.
Rising to Feminine Power.
Rising to Feminine.
Yeah, so
As you see it on the screen, rising to
Yes.
femininepower.com.au.
.com. Not AU, just .com.
Just .com, guys. Just .com.
Just .com.
And there's the book. If you scroll down, you can click the button. It's currently still on pre-release.
Yes, it is. So I've got a special pre-release price. So it's really get your orders in now and get that.
Yeah, absolutely, guys. That's wonderful. Wow. I mean, I've learned so much in this half an hour. It's amazing. And I'm sure you've got just as much gold, if not 100-fold inside the book. So I'm really excited to see where all of this goes. I know you've got lots of interests and you'll be taking it to the belly dancing school and everywhere, you're surrounded.
Exactly.
It'll support your retreats.
That's right.
Do you want to do more retreats?
I do, yes. I'm planning to do another one in October, and that was always the plan. I wanted to do some retreats out of the book, and what I'm also, I actually, next year I'll probably write a second edition. This was such a I'm not going to say it's totally easy because I had to, take time out of the weekends and the week to do it. But I loved the process. So, and working with you, Nat, was amazing. So, we'll do another one next year. But right now, it's working on this one.
I always say have a little rest for six
Yeah,
months.
I'm going to have a
9
rest.
months, and then I get a phone call, and then you guys go, I'm ready for my next one. It's
That's right.
addictive. I always say books are very addictive. So thank
Yeah.
you so much this morning, guys. Go to the website.
you.
Also, this book will be available on all your good online resellers like your Amazons, Barnes and Noble, so you can also find it. And the ebook's also coming out very soon as well. So thank you, Josie. Have an amazing
Thank you, Nat.
day. And everybody, go and smash it out. Bye, guys.